Well, I've seen a lot of Chinese frames over the years.
Chinarellos?
Yeah, Chinarellos. I'd definitely not call this frame a Chinarello. I don't know about its price point, but I've certainly seen a lot worse. We were talking a bit earlier ourselves about, I've seen bikes with catalogues stuffed down the seat tubes used as molds and all that sort of stuff to keep things open, and this isn't in that league in any way, shape or form. When I looked over to start with, the paint I thought was good without being outstanding. I certainly, there was a few things, if it was coming out of here, I would have liked to fix on it before it left.
Including what?
Well, we pointed out, I think, on the down tube here, it looked like it had a touch up somewhere and it wasn't quite polished properly, and just a bit of that, it looked like it had been painted by somebody who wasn't an expert painter, yes, and then sanded and polished and all that sort of the things that I don't like being done,
Yes, okay.
But in saying that, there was nothing super bad about the quality of it. I've seen a lot worse coming out of, OEM bikes.
Yep.
Hated the decal, as we mentioned.
Yes.
So.
What was that?
Well, it just looked dog ugly. It was really thick, and that's what it looked to me like. It was a vinyl decal that they'd put on, which we hate putting on vinyl and clearing over the top. We do it from time to time on customer request to get a special effect or something. However, when I sanded it, it wasn't vinyl. It sanded off like it was paint or a water slide decal, but man, it was thick. And as we were saying, that even the font style had all these raggy edges on it, and it just really looked untidy, I thought.
Yeah.
And even the sizing, it wrapped the tubes and all that. So, nothing I liked about it.
Right. And you took an ultrasound to it as well.
Yep.
That was to assess the paint quality?
Yeah, well, we just had a look around. We were saying we were measuring the paint thickness and the carbon thickness, and just for evenness of the carbon and all that sort of thing. I didn't find anything at all when I was ultrasounding it that I thought, it was bad. No voids or anything like that I found. But again, we spent more time thermal imaging it than we did.
Yes, we did.
With the ultrasound, yeah.
Yeah, okay. And in terms of paint thickness, that was pretty consistent?
Yeah, mate, yeah, it is what it is. It was, it had, what I would expect really. It was all in the ranges of what we expected. I can't even remember what the exact micron build was, but it wasn't outrageous, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And when you sanded it back,
Mm-hmm.
What was your initial thoughts on the quality of the carbon fibre and the joins and the bottom bracket area?
Well, I was pleasantly surprised.
Were you?
Yeah.
Okay. Why do you say that?
Well, loads of frames as we were going through. Through here on this join, they're often, the join is butted and it will have a heap of filler there. Some are wrapped. This one, the join was wrapped, and it was wrapped very neatly. And all the seams around here were joined very neatly. And as I said, somebody, a company or whatever, that took pride in their work. It wasn't just wham bam, get it out the door for whatever price. It was somebody had taken care in the design, the execution of it, which I appreciate.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you mentioned to me you should consider doing a carbon fibre colour for the black part of the bike.
Yep.
So why did you suggest that with this?
Well, some carbon you want to hide and some carbon you want to show.
Okay.
This carbon was one that I think we made the right decision, because have a look at it. It looks gorgeous, really. Any frame that we were stripping back to that level, we would certainly suggest to the owner, as we did to you, that maybe you should not paint back over this.
Yeah.
Because it really looks pretty.
So with other bikes that you paint, including mainstream bikes, do you often get carbon fibre that doesn't look at that type of level?
Oh yeah, of course, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. But in saying that, like a lot of manufacturers are building a bike not to have the carbon looked at, and they don't care so much. They're saying, okay, we're putting this together and we're painting over it, so it doesn't matter if, this join is not as it would be if they're leaving it nude,
Yes.
So.
Interesting. Okay. And then you use some secret thermal imaging equipment that you've got.
Well, the thermal imaging isn't secret.
Yeah.
The technique we use and the equipment we use, we keep to ourselves.
Yes.
I got really into researching flash thermology, and I thought it was quite amazing, but I didn't want to spend the $200K that it takes to get to that level.
200 grand.
200 grand,
wow.
yeah.
Okay.
And that works by giving it an instant pulse of light, which gives it some heat, and you check out the thermal flow going through it. So kind of worked out a way to do it for a lot less money.
Yes.
And it just works amazing. As you saw, I think even from somebody who's never seen anything like that, anybody can look at that and go, wow.
Absolutely. So we'll put some images up on the screen, but what's it essentially doing?
Essentially, through the carbon, we're looking at how the carbon transmits the heat. So if you've got a crack or something, it interrupts the thermal path. And as I said to you, you've got to put a heat load into it, and you've got to take a photo and take it fairly smartly, because as the heat dissipates, so does the damage disappear. And it all just becomes one as the heat spreads evenly throughout it. So that's the trick, instant heat, and get your photo quick.
Absolutely. Okay, and during that process, it seemed, once again, that the quality of the build was good.
Yeah, and just on that thermal imaging, and with this, you saw clearly, like around the back here, how you could see the extra layers of carbon fibre being laid in there for reinforcing around the back of the seat tube, which to me is amazing, you know.
Yes.
Yeah, I've never seen, you know, it's not X-raying, but shit, it's getting close to it, you know.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, so last question is, overall, you've been doing this for 10, 12 years.
Mm-hmm.
How does the Winspace compare to other carbon road bikes that you've seen, including, you know, mainstream bikes?
The build quality, as I said, is fine. You know, we've gone over it, but that's saying nothing about the engineering behind it and how it rides and all that sort of stuff. And I have almost zero expertise in that area. You know, I know what I like. That is not even the frame style that I would go for.
Yes.
If it was me looking for a bike.
Yes.
You know, I ride a Cannondale Super 6 Evo. It's a few years old.
Yep.
I like something more that's a climbing bike or something. Not doesn't really climb much with this. But sprinting of that, I'm not so much into the aero, into the touring bike. I do love going fast around corners, descending and all that sort of stuff. So I'm looking for something twitchy and all that.
But this is not cheap.
Yeah. It's not a cheap ass Cinarello.
Yeah.
And I don't know, you were talking some pricing with me. I don't even know. I know with the, you know, it's not a $600 Chinese frame, that's for sure. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I should have confidence walking out the door. Obviously, a magnificent paint job. Because I can
That's what I was going to say. It looks pretty damn good now.
I can show up at a local cafe, but confidence in riding this thing that is built well.
Yeah, absolute. I'll be interested to hear what you got to say once you build it and ride it, how it compares, because that's the proof. You know, it can be built as well as anything, but if the actual design and all that of the frame is crap, well, it's still it's no good, is it? But but as far as the manufacturing of the frame, the layup of the carbon, all that, I can't see anything that I have got any issues with, really.
Yes.
I guess the only thing I didn't like was the way it's got such long internal tubes for the cables and stuff like that. But, you know, again, I've seen lots of mainstream bikes that have that too.
Yes. Cool. Did you want to, I know we sort of talked through the painting process at the stuff, like, you know, we recaptured that.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's finished. Did you want to talk about anything specific about the technicalities of what you've done with the taping? Obviously, people are going to see that in the video. That's going to be all edited together.
Yeah.
But did you want to talk about anything specific regarding the paint job?
Well, I can talk through the procedure that was done and all that, and you just chop the shit out of what you want.
So do you want to talk through the procedure of how you actually paint this bike?
Okay, so what we did with this bike to start with is we, had a look at it, pulled all the parts of it, brought it upstairs, started sanding a bit off. I think we sanded off one half of the down tube to start with. That's when I said to Cam, hey, this carbon's awfully pretty. You sure you want to hide it painting it black? And it's still at that point in time, we didn't know how good it looked around the rest of the frame, but I don't usually strip a frame completely to bare carbon because I think it's a waste of time, effort and energy unless there's something nice to show. So we kept going on this and we thought it was great. So the first step in something like this is getting the paint off it. From there, we put the first layer of clear on as you would a normal primer or something like that if you were painting it a colour. So we used the clear as a filler. From there, we've sanded it down and started masking, really. And that's probably the longest part of the job, I guess.
I saw that firsthand.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and that sorts them in out from the boys. You know, like we've had many people here, you know, people see this sort of thing, hand masking and all that. Might not look like a big job, but I can tell you, you need a skilled hand to be doing that. And the guy, Dean, who painted it is definitely, he's one guy who can mask a straight line. So we do all that, put all the decals, because as you can see, there's no painted decals as such. They're just the decals, or maybe except the RCO and the fork leg, but they're all just laid on over the bare carbon, so the bare carbon shows through the paint. The only stick-on decal we put on was the UCI decal. And then, of course, the RCA on the fork leg is stenciled on. From there, it was basically, once we do that, let it dry, peel all that off, clear coat it. And that's pretty much it. We haven't, sometimes on really high-end resprays, we'll then sand it flat again and flow coat it to make it perfectly smooth. There's not much of an edge there through that, but it is, you can feel it, but I haven't seen a bike yet that's got bare carbon decals where there isn't some sort of edge. But we could have made it smoother with a flow coat. And the only other upgrade we could have done from there was ceramic clear it, which is one of my favourites.
What does that do?
Well, if you read the spiel from PPG, it makes it a lot more chip resistant. So the ceramic, well, like the ceramic coatings, makes it way more scratch resistant. But I don't like selling it on that because it will scratch, it will chip. But probably the biggest thing I see is cleaning. Dirt doesn't stick to it. You can just wipe stuff off super easy. And it is a bit self-healing. So if you do get minor scratches in it when it's in the sun, the scratch does tend to come back out. So it's only, I think we charge an extra $100 for ceramic clearing, but it's something well worthwhile.
What about the dickhead who put his finger on it when it was drying?
Have you eyes in the end of your fingers? That's what we always say to people if they come into the spray booth to look at a job that's wet, You can look, but this guy...
What an idiot.
It was right up about here, but and as Cam noticed, his fingerprint from where he first put it in to where it ended up, it did bounce out a bit more, so it wasn't quite so bad. It's a little bit of a sandpaper and a little bit of a polish, and she's gone.
That's awesome. All right, Gary. Well, thanks so much for the job. It's magnificent.
No problem at all.
Really well.
Cheers.